The most famous art of war, 2500 years ago, mentioned if you know your enemy and know yourself, you don't need to fear the hundreds of battles. And I believe if Sun Tzu was alive today, he would have added one more statement saying that if you know only your EDR, you need to worry a little bit. So I'm Gopan. I lead the business for SecureWorks in the region. Been in cybersecurity for about 20 years. Started in 2004. Before I start this, I just want to give you one element of a boardroom conversation. This happened in one of the banks in the region. I was not present there. I heard this secondhand. The CEO got a question from one of the board members that if we are hit by a ransomware today, should we pay or not? CEO didn't know the answer. He was caught off guard. So he spoke with the chief risk officer and asked what is our stand on this? And he didn't know the answer. So he redirected that to the CISO, quite a large bank by the way. So, and the CISO said, that's not my call, that's a board decision. So this went back to the board. Now, there is no right or wrong answer to this question, but it's very important to ask this question. Lots of people sitting in this room, you talk to your board quite frequently. If you really look at the questions which you need to educate the board, or probably the board would educate you, is, are we really prepared, right? So, what could you lose if you are hit by a ransomware today? What are you trying to protect? What's your crown jewel? Whenever I'm in front of customers, CIOs, CISOs, I ask this question. Sometimes that is an eye-opener. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to protect? Right, so very, very important. And what's a business continuity plan? We saw the July 19th incident, not a cyber attack, but the kind of massive impact it had in the space, to an extent where people in my family who had no idea about cybersecurity or IT asking me about how this happened, right? And again, the third question is just, what are we investing today to avoid a breach? So just making sure that you are aligning your ducks properly. Moving to the next piece, which is, we are really fighting criminals here. Some of these organizations are larger than organizations sitting in this room. The revenue is larger than that. These are not people who are sitting in a dark room with a hoodie on. They are people who wear suit and tie. They got their ecosystem. The people who are developing the ransomware or the malware, they are not the ones who are distributing it. The people who are not distributing are not the ones who are running the affiliates. They are not the ones who are running the command and control center, and they are not the ones who are negotiating with you. Completely independent business organizations talking to each other in an ecosystem, and they got their own HR system, they got their own sales, they have their marketing brand, they have a reputation to maintain, and it's a organized crime. And ransomware is one of the biggest. Business email compromise is not behind. All of us should be aware of what is happening around this. Gone are the days when we are fighting somebody trying to prove a point. Nobody is there to prove a point, right? So they are there after money. If you are difficult, they'll go to the next one. Simple as that. From a CISO's angle, we talk about top challenges. Number one challenge is, am I sure whether I have full visibility to my organization? Endpoint, network, cloud. Do I have full visibility? Is somebody sitting inside my organization which I'm not aware? Number one question. How do you solve this? You deploy technology. Your EDRs, your NDRs, your number of different terminologies out there, deploy all of that, which create the second challenge, which is complexity. Yeah, complexity, which is throwing thousands or millions of alerts at you. And assuming that you get a fairly good handle on these two problems, what you get as an outcome is a confirmed incident. I won't say a breach, a confirmed incident. That is when you need to ask yourself do I have a response mechanism within my system or my partner ecosystem? Do I have people on my speed dial who I can call, who will be available to do incident response? Super important. Now, a SIM, lots of you using SIM here, this could be any SIM. SIM will help you to address all of this. At least that's the way it was painted for probably 20 years. SIM will not solve that problem, right? Just because I personally was going and pitching RSA Envision before RSA was RSA acquired Envision, saying that, hey, you should buy from me because I've got these use cases, 400 use cases, A and B or C, A or B and C alert. It used to work 15 years ago, not anymore. Because you cannot keep writing correlation rules, right? Now this is where the industry slowly started looking at, okay, let's look beyond SIM. Let's look at EDR. Let's look at NDR. So Gartner came up with this concept called SOC triad. They said that you cannot just depend on SIM, you need to have the other two components also. Network logs, endpoint logs. People started deploying SIM, EDR, NDR, threat intelligence, SOAR, vulnerability management, you name it, right? So stack of technology, smart salespeople coming and selling piece of technology to everybody. So lots of technology there. This was all deployed in silos. Don't get me wrong, they had decent integrations between each other, but this was all not organic in nature. It was all one technology integrated to the other. Now the fundamental issue with this is, this was very complex. Why this is complex? Because you have individual data stores for each technology. So SIM has got a data store, EDR has got another data store, NDR has got another data store. So if I'm searching for something like this, I don't know really where do I start. So I've asked this question to some of these CISOs, like, do you have threat hunting as a practice? So yeah. So how many platforms do you use for threat hunting? So like 4. Okay, that's not really good. You need to have one platform that you can threat hunting. How do you do that? Now imagine a scenario, real life scenario, crime scene, something bad happened. Now, police officer coming, doing an investigation, we see that something bad happened on a Saturday morning, say 2:29 a.m., something bad happened. Now, no rocket science here, he will need to come and see that somebody entered the room and somebody did something bad, exited. So in that 60-minute window, from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., what happened? Very important to understand this. Bring this to a digital world. Take an example of a SIM. Nothing against any of these companies. Splunk, QRadar, Logarithm. You take any of them. You deploy the SIM solution. SIM has got an alert. Something bad happened. 2:29 a.m. Okay, you found an alert. Now, let me see what happened in that 60-minute window. Will I find something? Not really. You need to log into your EDR console. This could be your Defender, your CrowdStrike, your SentinelOne, whatever EDR. You need to look into that. Will you find everything in the EDR console? Not really. You will see only the endpoint telemetry. You don't see network, you don't see cloud, you don't see any of that. You're just seeing your endpoint telemetry. And again, I have the same question, where do I start? This is where I believe that shift is happening in the industry, where you are looking at beyond one platform for doing incident response. Now how that shift happens is, I love that statement from John, security fellow in Microsoft. Defenders think in list, attackers think in graphs. As long as this is true, you lose. Now, what is the difference between list and graphs? List is a log, an alert. You write, something bad happened. You're going through Sheikh Zayed Road, 140, cross, you get an alert. Now, what is the telemetry? Telemetry is CCTV camera. You are recording every single thing happening on the endpoint, or the network, or the cloud, regardless of whether you are making a breach or not. You are not deviating from the policy, but you're still getting recorded. Now, what do you mean by telemetry? This could be probably high up in the pyramid of pain, but this is seriously significant amount of data. Now, this would mean that you are collecting registry changes, file modifications, lateral movements, privilege escalations, all of that happening on your endpoint. Assuming that something would be bad. You don't need to wait for something bad to happen. You need to collect all of that. Once you collect that, you put that into one single data store. So today we are talking about individual data stores for your EDR, firewalls, NDRs, vulnerability management, UEBS, name it, right? Imagine that you're changing everything into one big data lake. Without really worrying about, should I be paying more license? If I forward more events per second, should I be paying more? If I pay more from a GB per day or TB per day, would I be paying more? Don't need to worry about it. Put everything into one big data lake, apply normalization, apply correlation, have that output integrated with your ticketing system, with your incident response practice. It's not a SecureWorks slide, this is a Gartner slide about how XDR as a terminology is. Now people still say XDR is a marketing terminology. I genuinely don't believe that, because XDR fundamentally in an architecture wise there is a difference. Now I'll talk about a little bit on that segment. I still get questions about, do you have this green button in your thing? Can you click on it? So, I mean, I would love to have more intelligent questions around services than platform. Platform obviously is good. Maserati is a fantastic car, I love it. But Uber is a great service. Apples and oranges, right? You don't choose Uber because it has got a nice car. You choose Uber because you got a reliable driver. How many customers did he serve? How long he has been driving? When did he get his license? All these are very important questions. Now this is where you, bringing back to the digital world, you had a SIM, managed SIM was called as MSSP many years ago, 20 years, right? EDR, managed EDR, it was not called as MEDR, it was called as MDR. I was just having a conversation outside with a gentleman, I hope he's in the room, on somebody managed EDR, isn't that MDR? Are you sure? NDR came up with managed NDR, calling it as MDR. XDR came with managed NDR, XDR, and calling it as MDR. So everything is MDR. Now you have a bunch of smart salespeople again coming in front of you saying that my MDR is better than their MDR because I've got this feature. Okay. Now SIM vendors, they felt like, oh, we are falling behind. So let's add one EDR to it. Let's call that as MDR. Splunk with CrowdStrike, let's call it as MDR. Okay. Or you add an NDR also to it. Let's call it as MDR. So this was like so confusing. So I can empathize on your behalf as people who are facing salespeople trying to say how good our MDR is versus somebody else's MDR. Now, what is interesting is you move that transformation to a visualization of this. Instead of having multiple data stores, have one big data lake, apply AI, make sure that you're having deep learning algorithm, ask questions to people like, how big is your big data? What's the size of your data? I mean, just don't put marketing gimmicks there, right? So AI, ML and all of that. How is that? Challenge people, right? And then you put all of that into a service vector around it. Now, all I spoke was technology, but also you need to have a service. Now, there is a shift from MSSP to something we call as MDR. And MDR is, obviously you need to have security monitoring in place. You need to have investigation in place. So it's not, gone are the days when a vendor would call you and say that, hello Mr. Customer, there is a problem. Now here you go. Gone are those days. Now it is, hello Mr. Customer, there is a problem, and here is why we believe there is a problem, we already investigated it. So ask questions, challenge your vendors. Do you provide investigation SLAs, or is it still alerting SLAs? Do you provide incident response? If yes, how many hours? Is there a cap? Is it 40 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours, or is it unlimited? Right? So, are you doing threat hunting? Absolutely important. If you're not doing it, 100% this is a mandate thing. It was optional 5 years ago, not anymore. And obviously, who is managing the content of the platform? Is it done by a MSSP who do not own the platform, or is it managed by the platform OEM? So who is managing the platform? Now, these are completely different skill set, different set of people, but they talk to each other. So as a customer, when you get an alert, making sure that you're getting a true positive alert, which includes investigation, incident response, hunting, technology, contextual insights, even ability to do some sort of a disruption or containment. But platform, super important. With a SIM, you cannot deliver MDR, period. So SIM plus EDR is not MDR, right? How do you do this? So how would SecureWorks do this? I would say, we just collect raw telemetry from your endpoint, network, cloud, you name it. All your switches, routers, firewalls, proxies, web application firewalls, you name it, right? We pull everything to one big data lake. Without you really worrying about, am I forwarding more so that I get a heavy bill next month? You don't really worry about it, right? Because the licensing is in such a simple way that you do this. Second thing what we do smartly is, we do not enforce you to use our agent. So let's say that you're using one of those agents. CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Microsoft Defender. Lots of you sitting here would be using Microsoft E5. Use your Defender, fantastic tools. So collect all the telemetry, not alerts, telemetry. Not the radar camera, but the CCTV camera. You pull everything to the platform. You pull everything from a network perspective. endpoint perspective, cloud perspective. Put everything to one big data lake. And this is what makes us a bit different from the way we do our business. I'll just talk about my last slide. If you really look at a SOC, there are core 3 parts to a SOC, right? One is the platform. You need to have a good platform in place, no question about it. Second is the SecOps. Somebody need to sit and monitor you. And third part is the consulting. This includes incident response, threat hunting, threat intelligence, threat research, whatever that is. Now, SecureWorks, we have our Tejas platform. I don't know how many of you know. I have got few customers of SecureWorks sitting in this room, I know that. So SecureWorks has got a Tejas platform, which includes XDR, EDR, vulnerability detection response, identity response, network detection response, all that into one big data lake, right? So that is the platform with about 750 billion events coming to us every day from 5,400 customers. Now, those of you who do not know about SecureWorks, we have been delivering this for 25 years. Not so good at marketing, I would say, but we started in 1999. This is our 25th year in operations with 5,500 customers in 80 countries. In the region, we got about 130 customers in the region. I was the first employee of SecureWorks 11 years ago. We've grown the team to about close to 30 people now in the region. Consulting, got a very strong threat research organization, close to 80 people, doing nothing but threat research, researching about who, why, what areas of threat actors. We have got a very strong incident response practice, close to 100 people doing incident response outside of SOC, doing deep forensics, DFIR activities. And we got a very strong adversarial testing group. We call it SWAG, SecureWorks Adversary Group, where we do red teaming, advanced penetration testing, right? So this, if you really look at the combination of these three, obviously, sometimes people ask me, whom do you compete against? We compete against different set of vendors in each of those segments. I don't think there are many companies in the planet today who got a very strong hold on all 3 areas of a SOC, which includes the platform, service, and the consulting bit. And that would be my response on why SecureWorks. Sorry, I had one more slide, which was an overall philosophy of threat detection. Prevent what you can, detect what you cannot prevent, and hunt what you cannot detect. Thank you.